Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Psychology and Spirituality, a bridge to a better life discussion. I'm your host, Marcia Trajano, and to my side is our co-host, Jussara Korngold. Jussara is the Secretary General of the International Spiritist Council, former president, and current Vice President of the United States Spiritist Federation. For the past 30 years, Jussara has been volunteering as a counselor in fraternal conversations in several spirit institutions as part of her outreach program. If you want to know more about fraternal conversations, please let us know. But thank you for joining us today. This episode is brought to you by our friends at AMI Brasil, an association of Spiritist health professionals. AMI Brasil was founded in 1995, and if you're interested in learning more about this organization, please do visit AMI Brasil, spelled at amebrasil.org.br. That site is in Portuguese and has a lot of good information. I want to also let you know that this program is sponsored by, in addition to AMI Brasil, by the United States Spiritist Federation, by TV Mansão do Caminho, and the International Spiritist Council. We are here today to talk about the pursuit of reality. What a great topic. Wanted to let you know before we get started, if you haven't done so, please do hit subscribe and do check out our other channels. We can do that by going to spiritist.us site. Jussara, it's so good to be here with you to discuss this great topic, right? The pursuit of reality, which is all about this self-discovery, this self-awareness.
Yeah, so let me first greet everyone. It's great to be here again, to be with you, Marcia, and for us to be doing this work in psychology and spirituality, a bridge to a better life and the pursuit of reality. Don't be afraid because we are talking about a good reality, right? And you will see in our discussions that we are not going to be talking about anything that can put us, down, or but we are going to talk about important tools for us to really take the best out of our lives, this bridge to a better life. So welcome everyone, and let's go and start with our conversation today, Marcia.
Absolutely. I want to just tell everybody that there's so many good sources for this topic. Specifically, I would like to recommend two books, both of them written by Joanna de Angelis. They are The Integral Human Being and Self-Discovery, An Inner Search. I wanted to just remind, if you were able to watch our last episode, we discussed a little bit. We just started talking about this idea of self-discovery. And Jussara, you mentioned, right, that we begin this journey of self-discovery often as a painful process. It can really be. But I wanted to bring here the fact that I reference Joanna de Angelis, right? That in her books, she reminds us of such great contributions by scientists, humanists, interpersonal psychiatrists, and psychologists. And I want to tell everyone here some of the great names are, for example, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And who is Kubler-Ross? Well, she's well known for her work on death and dying, right? For me specifically, and I use just out of her work almost daily in my professional life, which is the acceptance curve that Kubler-Ross introduced to the world and has been adopted all over the world in different academic but also a professional corporate world, right? So it's about dying, but it's also about letting go. It's about acceptance and how difficult it is for all of us to let go of something, someone, or our own sense of identity. More about that later. Joanna talks about Stanislav Grof as the founding member of transpersonal psychology. Another one that I know a lot about him, well, really many good books by Raymond Moody Jr., who is a prolific writer on near death experiences. uh, Abraham Maslow, right? Who is him? Oh, if you went to school and you had to study psychology, you had to study his hierarchy of needs. And to me, it just highlights the fact that we have a material side, and with those material, very human, animal nature, we have those needs, which he calls the lower needs, right? And then as the hierarchy needs are up, we step up to a more perhaps intellectual, emotional, and spiritual side. And those bring a very different set of needs. Charles Start, right? He worked on altered states of consciousness. My favorites, Viktor Frankl. He worked on he founded, right, the concept of logotherapy, and amazing book that I highly, highly recommend to everyone to read, which is Man's Search for Meaning, which talks about that transformational journey that we all go through and how important is the concept of meaning. Finally, Joanna introduces also Daniel Goleman, and Daniel, of course, is super well known everywhere on the idea of emotional intelligence, right? When we talk, we no longer can talk about IQ, we also have to talk about that emotional intelligence, EQ. Anyways, those contributions have now become intertwined, incorporated, integrated in all of society, and many, many other places where the notion of the soul, right, as the basis of human phenomena is there, very tangibly so. Any thoughts, Jussara, that you would like to contribute before we move on to our conversation?
Yeah, I think the point here is how so many different, uh, scholars have come to the same conclusion, which is the same thing that our work here, based on the works of Joanna de Angelis, is leading us to understand. They all converge to understand that there is more than just our flesh and bones. And this
Yes.
is the reason why we have to go through this journey of self-discovery, this pursuit of reality in the sense of understanding who I am. So from the moment I ask this question, I think we could say that the answer would be, how do you see yourself?
Correct.
Do you really see yourself as just another human being living among almost 8 billion people? The way we should see ourselves is this atom of life that have started like a seed, and we are having all these opportunities to grow through our experiences to the possibilities there are before us, and using all of this and all this understanding about immortality as well as the main point for us to focus and to really find motivation for our journey.
Yeah, beautiful. I love what you said about that atom of light, right? Not just another among many. But Jasada, I think you mentioned the idea that those extraordinary scholars brought something that is what we're talking here, right? The notion of being more than this, this flesh and bones, right? And can you maybe tell me a little bit, Jussara, about how spiritism and what I may call spiritism psychology, right? How those themes were brought to us long before a certain scholar, his name was Freud, Sigmund Freud, first brought to humanity. Can you tell us just to have a sense of a timeline of how far back Spiritism does and how it is really intertwined?
It is not unknown to us, and regardless whether you have any particular faith or not, we all have heard that the stories or is part of our religious books, or those religious books, how there was this always this notion, this idea of communication with beings that belong to a different realm.
Mm-hmm.
So went to different formats, from the primitive way of worshiping the sun, the moon, and giving attributes to the different gods, as we can see the pantheon of gods from Roman history, from Greek history, and even from Egypt and other cultures. So there was always this intrinsic idea that there is something else, and that there is
Mm-hmm.
something that survives the physical body. Of course, up to this moment, there are so many questions and so many theories, and it's hard for any of us to come and attest, no, this is it. This is the final
Mm-hmm.
and ultimate answer to what we are. But like we say, the more science as well, and those scientific minds, those scholars start getting in themselves involved in these quests, we see that they come from a lot of research, and they are constantly changing, improving. And in terms of this spirituality, so we see, like I said, in those books, and even from
Mm-hmm.
our concept in the spirituality, how the soul survives is actually the predominant idea in among almost 90% of human beings on Earth. So now we just have to start to learn, or to try to understand how we move
Mm-hmm.
around this concept, right?
Yeah, how to absorb, right? What does
Yes.
it mean to us? So if we say that, and I'm going back to what you said and back to what you just said, is what can we conclude about this meaning of life when we said, what does it mean to us? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to, I don't know, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, or Egypt, or today, even in our next door neighbor? What does it mean? This thing called life, as you mentioned, are we just a agglutination of cells, right, under this nervous system controlling our movements? Are we just, I don't know, Jussara, are we just connected by the genetic pulse from our parents, which is all could be said, right? There's too many movies that we can refer to actually about this idea of chance and heredity. And if we believe that, and maybe if you think it's, I think it's okay if you do, but oh, what a waste, right? Billions of years to get to this moment. And what I mean by that is right now, Jussara, you and I, and all of you who are listening to us at this moment, all this time, are we just wasting, or this is another step in this journey that is a collective journey and an individual journey? Are we just a happy accident, or are we perhaps, and I'm getting to a bit of taboo here, right? But are we perhaps a product of an intelligent design? So, in any case, I just want to ask you, what do you think we should start to grasp regarding that engineering and that leads us to this moment of awareness, of consciousness, right? And how they, perhaps, Josada, once we get to that concept of who we are and our consciousness, how does it encounter with a more materialistic concept of life?
I think the first thing is to really applaud the efforts of all of those you mentioned at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, in in lifting up the veil at least a little bit to show or
Mm-hmm.
to move us away from this concept of reductionism that
Sure.
we are
Yeah.
just a mass of cell under the command of nervous systems, all those things. So, uh, and um, obviously the idea here, and this is why we are having this kind of conversations, and we are happy that people are connecting with us, is exactly to breach this um, concepts of science of the mind with the spiritual reality as well.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, um, when we try to put everything under the banner of genetics, um, we cannot get the answers, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's not us trying to say that science or genetics are not a fact. Yes, they are. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we are as physical body, the
Mm-hmm.
byproduct of, those that have participated in our conception, right? Right, our
Mm-hmm.
conception. But what no one can explains is why sometimes, siblings in the same home, they are so different. Different
Mm-hmm.
even in terms of their genetic inheritances.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, "Oh no, that was a combination, a different combination, and that's why this got a this extra atom or genome. It's not my field of experience, that the other one doesn't get."
Mm-hmm.
But why? Like you said, it's just chance.
Mm-hmm.
It's just chance that we come with all the possibilities, intellectual possibilities, among a sibling that perhaps doesn't have any. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just, like the work of chance, or the or sarcasm from a higher mind,
I
right?
love it. Yeah. What
Right.
what what uh, what a bad joke. Right. If the
So
two of our siblings, and why one is this way and why one is the other, it does not make sense, right, Josado?
yeah, and we are not talking just about personalities here,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean we understand, and psychology can explain how, even though it seems that we belong to the same environment, social
Mm-hmm.
environment, it's still people can absorb things in a different way. The experiences that we live to me caused a certain impact, to you didn't cause the same impact. So this we understand. But what about, this physiology, right?
Yes.
Talking about
Yeah.
physiology, and we see this, some distinction so clear. So I think this should lead us to try to understand more, and to look for different answers. We cannot look for the answers in the same place that we never got them, right? So now is when I think, and this is one of the things that our purpose here is to invite everyone to have an open mind to those concepts of spirituality.
Love
Okay,
it.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
what if this is not it? I mean, to me, this is the greatest news I could ever receive, right? I don't want this to be just it. I don't want, me, my, me to just finish in this one incarnation. I want to have more possibilities. I want
I
to,
love it. I love it.
right?
No,
So,
sorry to interrupt, but I love it. I love that I said, no, 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 whatever. You talked about sarcasm, whatever the bad joke that you're playing. This I don't accept. This
yeah.
is a waste, right? As I mentioned before, and I think as we get to grasp this idea of a spiritual or spiritualist concept about being human, right? And if we also maybe confront with some of the concepts that I don't know, Freud, Jung brought to us in the field of psychology, we are really confronted with spirituality and psychology, this profound view of being human, right? The profound view of a human being and of being human. So I really love that. I appreciate that tremendously.
Well, no
Mhm.
why, Marcia, that we have so many people that declare themselves to be skeptical today.
Sure.
Uh, because there is need for us to change the paradigm.
Yeah.
We not just continue thinking the way we thought before. Like you said, with Freud, it started this new concept and others following and continuing following. So it
Mhm.
is time for us to adapt and to see beyond what we are just seeing in the mirror. And this
Yeah.
first step for what we wanted to do here to the self-discovery. So the self-discovery,
Mhm.
an invitation for me as well to change my paradigm, not just,
Yes.
okay, I'm not just it, right?
Mhm.
There is more. There
Mhm.
is before, there is now, there is after, and now,
Mhm.
in possession of this information, how am
Mhm.
I going to move about in life?
And it's a choice, right? How we're gonna, I love what you say, by the way, the choice of how to move. In that move, that little four-letter word, it can mean so much, right? Our choice of being, our choice of being humane, the choice of being gentle, choice of being open, and so on and so forth. So this is really beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. um, what if you go back to the journey itself, Jussara, what are the things that maybe we can discuss here regarding that idea that our lives are continuing? We talk about from zero to whenever, right? The moment of birth and the moment of death. Um, are there any time specific that we are perhaps more prone or more able to look inside of us? And I say that because as we know, 2020 to 2000, and I'm saying 2022, right, where the entire globe, we were faced with the notion of a pandemic, and you went ups and lows in terms of how do you deal with the meaning of a virus that is unknown, and how we're vulnerable, et cetera, et cetera. And that in itself, from a notion of the life cycle of humanity, it is a moment to push it towards this inner journey. But if you think in terms of individually, do you think there is a time that pushes to collect ourselves and look inwardly in search for that self-awareness? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's. I was having the image of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and I
Mm-hmm.
thinking about all the cycle, right? So now
Mm-hmm.
change the cycle, the
Mm-hmm.
cycle of acceptance to ourselves and how we position ourselves in life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
There are the happy moments, the moments of disappointment, and the moments where we are in good health, the moments that we are not in good health. And we continue in this cycle in, conforming with everyone else is doing and accepting in a way that this is what life has to offer. So
Mm-hmm.
here we reach a point that we say, you know what, I don't want to accommodate in
Mm-hmm.
just those what seems the natural stage of life. Okay, I'm born, I'm
Mm-hmm.
I grow a little bit, I go to school, then
Mm-hmm.
I go to college, or I decided to work instead. Then I'm going to find a partner, perhaps have
Mm-hmm.
children, good
Mm-hmm.
job, and
Yep.
take some vacations, have some fun, and then age is going to be knocking at my door, and then elderly life becomes a reality, and now I'm expecting death, and that's it. It's
Mm-hmm.
us to break this cycle somehow and not to accommodate to things that are happening to us. If to understand that it is in our power to change things, and we are not saying change for others, we are talking about ourselves. This
Right.
conversation about self discovery.
Yes.
Jussara is not here to Marcia discovery.
Love it. Uh-huh.
We are here to talk about ourselves, and it's the
Mm-hmm.
only way when start knowing myself. But why we are accommodate when things are not, it's always in the same old the habits, the old habits die hard, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That same contest. We may not feel that much adventures, and we say, okay, this is what life has to offer, and is like that for everyone. But there comes to a point that, very much like children, we are going to mature more, and now we are talking about
Mm.
the maturity of the being, right? And the maturity of the being will
Mm-hmm.
lead us to a personal anguish that will motivate us to journey into a path or a quest of getting to understand better how things really are. So, in a way, unfortunately, this is how we have been electing for ourselves. It doesn't have to be this way.
Mm-hmm.
Only when things go bad,
Mm-hmm.
we try to find a different way to do things. It's like that phrase that we have. We keep on doing the same thing, expecting to have a different outcome. It's not going to happen. Okay, it is what we already know. Now, when we get into a state of disharmony, or whether it's because of, like you mentioned, a global pandemic, or
Mm-hmm.
because of a personal struggle that can be related to health, to our professional life, to
Mm-hmm.
our relationships, different aspects of our lives, we start becoming more inquisitive.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the things that can lead us to say, no more. I have to find a different path. I have to come with different,
Mm-hmm.
possibilities, and try
Mm-hmm.
for new ways of doing things or seeing things. Perhaps we have those blind spots, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have been going through life with blind spots, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily appreciating everything, appreciating the experiences, even when they can be a little harsh, right?
Yes, yes. And I wanted to, I don't know if we have time, I think we do. Wanted to maybe talk a couple of things, right? Number one, Jussara, is, and I'm going to try to do with my hands here. So this is a impromptu attempt here. So if you're thinking into a triangle, and to the left it is means the beginning of our lives, right? So zero, and to the right is the end. And this is really cool if you start to think about in relation to are we more prone or not, but it's the fact that from the beginning of our lives to the this apex, right, the summit of this incline, we as humans, from a personality perspective, as you know, we are developing our personas, which is really how in under the command of the ego we meet the demands of our external life. And the demands they're expressed differently in your reality. Jussara, you live in New York, right? Very different reality than my life here in Nashville. But even if we start thinking about our birth and our education, what it is to be born a woman now versus so many decades ago, or 100 years ago, right? What does it mean from the context and how to meet the demands of that external life and the notion of success? And we get all the way up to meet what we now find is not authentic. And that's that proverbial midlife crisis when we fall, and it hurts, Jusada. It is painful. It is so difficult to now find out that this persona that I create, which is an illusion, it's really what I thought I needed to be successful in certain ways. You mentioned that, right? And we find that it's really hollow. It's not we are. So the process of self-discovery, self-awareness, this inner journey that we talk here, it's really the descent from this apex when we try to look for ourself, our deep self, which really means is a journey toward individuation, but it's a journey that utilizes no longer the demands of the external life, but it's about the demands of becoming that authentic self. And I love that this model, by the way, it really makes me think about that crisis, that fall that you mentioned, Jusada. It could be pandemic, it could be a personal struggle, it can be, I don't know, any reversal of fortune, losing your job, losing your the place that you live because of the crisis in the mortgage market, the finance market, or whatever. There's so many things that come and just takes us from what we thought was that apex success. We got to it, and it's not, because success really means all the way down toward our true humanity, our true sense of self. Just a thought for us to talk here. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, but you see, Marcia, the way I see it, it was
Mhm.
great that you show the pyramid, right?
Yes, 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 yeah,
Or the triangle. Uh, this part doesn't exist.
yeah. The
It
beginning doesn't exist. Yeah.
exists if
Hmm.
I'm thinking about reality um, in terms of my material body, or when I'm thinking about just from a material perspective of life. And because in terms of the mind, in
Yeah.
terms of the possibility of the being of the spirit, that is only essential.
Yes. Yes.
So there may be a decline in our physical bodies, even in our possibilities of, manifesting ourselves, because then, the um, the old age may impact the way we communicate, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But this is, like you said, it's not, it does not represent the individual, it doesn't represent who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, so when we are talking about the pursuit of reality,
Mm-hmm.
again, is
Mm-hmm.
changing this paradigm of thinking like this straightforward. I mean, it's and this is what we've been doing. You know, our cycle of acceptance here. Not a
Mm-hmm.
cycle; it's a triangle, right? Okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
here. I reach my prime, and then it's just decay from this point on. And but in terms of the mind, in terms of the possibility, and we are being capable of seeing that today, because today that people can live up to, old age, which didn't happen before, or how they, the elderly were labeled in society. We see
Mm-hmm.
how they can have their minds so sharp and still contributing, maybe not much the machine, the body, but the mind is there. They are sharp, they can still do so many things. So I really like to think as myself, pathway to, and and this is a process of self discovery. And before, I used to think that there are limitations, right?
Yes.
There are
Yeah.
limitations in terms of age, in terms of gender, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of how
Correct.
my
Mm-hmm.
body presents itself, or the possibilities that my physical body will have. But now I see myself completely different from this perspective. And
Yeah.
this is the first step. And sometimes, like you asked before, uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's only a difficult trial that's
Mm-hmm.
going to, to show us how resilient we can become,
Yes.
and
Yes.
how we can come up with new ideas or new solutions.
Mm-hmm.
But if we just keep there accommodated, I mean, then maybe will not get the most out of this opportunity that we are having.
Absolutely. And we think there's a book that I read long time ago. It's not a psychological book or a spiritual book, but it's just a book, a sociological study, specifically about North America and the U.S. And the title of the book was "The Culture of Complaint," right? And it's very interesting because forget the book, the content, but the title brings us to the sense of discomfort, right? The discomfort, whatever they may be, leads to complaint. But that look, why do I feel this discomfort? Can lead to that sense of self-awareness, right? And to understand, I am being pushed toward my self-discovery for whatever external uh, factor that is leading to that sense of I got to complain, and it's important, like you said, just that really important to me, and that's why I regurgitating a little bit. But in this process, we also find that the status quo is no longer good enough, right? It's unacceptable. And it's really the springboard, perhaps, for us to look into um, the mechanism that will propel us to our own self discovery. And when we do this, it's all about, oh my goodness, going back to the to Jesus' teachings, right? With the parable of the talents, or awareness of the potentiality that we have. And if we don't really work with those, we end up potentially um, like the parable, really hurting ourselves, right? We escape our who we are. We don't confront ourselves. We may even, Jussara, as we see in these books that I mentioned earlier, that Joanna de Angelis wrote. It's potential for, if we don't take the time to look at what are the reasons for our sense of discomfort, we may lead to, I don't want to see it, therefore I'm going to use X to escape from the reality. And X can be, oh, I don't know, addictions, right? Self-destructive paths, or uh, working too hard, or I don't know, any type of thing that can distract us. This is a great distraction, right? This little device, I can use it because I prefer to look at whatever this is the source of distraction than to really confronting my true feelings. But I love that idea that through that, and I have to say it, not easy, often painful process to look at yourself in the mirror, right? We become aware of, one, our talents, our potentialities, but also our resilience toward things that make us falter, make us fall. So,
Eh,
what are your thoughts? Yeah.
the reason why, we cannot accommodate. Uh,
Hmm.
and it's very easy when we accommodate to the situations. We normally have a tendency to complain, right,
Hmm.
about life, complain about the card I was dealt, right?
Uh-huh.
Complain about if I have a belief about, God or any other name that you wanted to give to, or you address God to, So. And this is where this journey, right, that has to start, and um, it's not such an easy one. Beginnings are always hard, right?
Hmm.
All of you that has already started, gym program or diet program, you know how hard it is for us to start until we get more motivated and see the results and see how good it's doing to us. So it's
Hmm.
the same thing with time. If we allow ourselves to get into this journey, and with time, we will see how important it is. And I would like to finish our conversation today, Marcia, exactly quoting one thing that the Joanna de Angelis tells in this book, Self Discovery, and
Hmm.
for all of those that do not have the books by Joanna de Angelis, please look at Leal Publisher
Hmm.
.org for the books. They are really intriguing, enlightening, and important for all those that want to get to know themselves better. And so she says the following: a spark starts a fire. A beam of light opens a gap into darkness. A drop of balm softens affliction. A word of knowledge guides life. A gesture of love inspires hope and gives peace. So, going into a process of pursuing our reality, of self discovery, is a gesture of love towards ourselves, and will definitely inspire us more hope and will lead us to feel more peace. So I would like to uh, continue this conversation because I think there's so much we still can talk about this pursuit of reality and self-discovery. And so I give to you, Marcia, to
Let's do it. Let's come back to this at the next episode when we talk a little bit more about the pursuit of reality. There's so many layers, right, Josada? There's so many items that it's good to put our fingers into it. We talked about many contributors to this thought process, beyond Joanna de Angelis, beyond Allan Kardec, and the entire body of work contained by in the work of Spiritism. We talked about Kubler-Ross a couple of times, Viktor Frankl, Daniel Goleman, Maslow, and so on and so forth. And this is just right, a drop in the ocean of all the discussions that we can get into it. But today, for now, we're going to say goodbye and hope to see you in the next chapter when we'll continue this conversation. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.